In the 1990s, there was a wave of layoffs. To prevent me and his ex-wife from competing for my job in the city, my husband publicly gave me a pair of worn-out shoes and accused me of having bad intentions, claiming that I deliberately took off my clothes and fell into the water so he would rescue me and be forced to marry me, making me the chief's wife. Even my stepdaughter, whom I had lovingly cared for over the past 10 years, showed bruises I had never seen before and cried that I was a cruel stepmother who abused her. I couldn't defend myself and was stoned to death by angry villagers. My husband refused to claim my body and immediately returned to the city to remarry his ex-wife, forming a warm, happy family with her and our daughter. When I opened my eyes again, I didn't beg James Harper for help. I let myself sink to the bottom of the freezing lake. But he panicked. "What are you standing there for?" he shouted and grabbed my hand. Above me, I heard James Harper's voice as I struggled in the water. Looking up at his young, cold, and arrogant face, I realized I had been reborn back to the day 10 years ago when I first fell into the water. In my previous life, I had brought cold medicine to James Harper, who was patrolling the frozen lake, and accidentally stepped into an ice hole. He didn't hesitate to jump in and pull me out. He even took off his heavy, wet coat to wrap me in his military uniform. I was touched by his kindness and foolishly believed I had found someone I could trust for life. Because I loved him and wanted to repay him for saving me, I agreed to a sterilization procedure after marriage, and I never complained. I treated his daughter Tina Harper like my own and cared for them both for 20 years. But what I got in return was a ruthless betrayal. Now that I've been reborn, I won't let anyone ungrateful drain me ever again. Emma Carter, are you insane? James Harper's hand came at me, but I dodged, held my breath, and sank deeper into the water. This time, I wouldn't give him a chance to frame me. The cold of the lake was bone-chilling, the suffocating pressure unbearable, and I fought hard. Just before I lost consciousness, I saw several people jumping after me. I had won the bet. The village's fishing team pulled me out, and after coughing up a mouthful of water, I lay on the ice, gasping for air. James Harper looked down at me with a conflicted expression, and I was relieved hadn't saved me this time. In my past life, everyone saw me naked in his arms, and because he was a leader, they believed whatever he said. People called me shameless and willing to do anything to climb the ladder. I begged him to clear my name, but he threw his shoes at me and said, "Blame yourself for standing in Jessica Moore's way." That's when I realized he had never gotten over his ex-wife and had only married me to take care of his daughter. When Jessica returned, both father and daughter saw me as an obstacle to their reunion. Even when I was beaten to death, they remained indifferent. James Harper became impatient as I stayed silent. Suddenly, he ripped away the blanket someone had placed over me for warmth. Who was he pretending for? He shouted that I'd met Jessica in secret and tried to kill myself just to get his attention. "She was my first love," he said. "What right do you have to be jealous?" The icy wind cut through my skin, and I was too cold to move as he tossed the blanket aside and said, "Remember this and cure your jealousy," even though he knew full well that I had only come to deliver him cold medicine. I was too weak to fight back and curled up on the ice. "You scared me to death." Jessica Moore suddenly ran over, screamed, and kicked me. James Harper immediately rushed to her side, full of concern. "You're sick and still came out? How can I trust you to be alone again?" "I was waiting to bring you lunch," Jessica pouted. I touched the now-wet medicine packet in my pocket with trembling hands and realized everything had never been sick. The medicine was meant for Jessica. Jessica noticed my expression and smirked. "Comrade Emma, can you let your husband and daughter join me for dinner tonight? They miss me and are too shy to ask." James Harper quickly added, "When we applied for marriage, you promised Jessica wouldn't be affected. Don't stir up trouble." I forced a smile and said, "Of course I won't stop you." A flicker of surprise passed across James Harper's face. He hadn't expected me to give in so easily. "You're smart," he said. He didn't care about my change in attitude and took off his military coat to wrap around Jessica Moore, helping her gently while leaving me behind. The others around us looked at me with pity. Just moments ago, James Harper had ordered them not to save me to teach me a lesson. I dragged myself home in my soaking wet clothes, gathered my certificates and awards, and decided to apply for a transfer to the Northwest. In my previous life, I had stayed behind for James Harper, cared for his family with all my heart, and fulfilled my duties as a wife, but in return, he destroyed me. Bang, bang, bang. Loud knocking came from the living room. I quickly hid the documents and opened the door. James Harper barged in furiously and grabbed me by the collar. Why didn't you pick up Tina? Do you know how scared she was at daycare? There are wolves in the hills at night. Did you want to hurt my daughter on purpose? Jessica Moore burst into tears beside him, eyes filled with accusation as if she had personally witnessed me trying to harm Tina. But compared to both of them, I had always been the one who truly loved that child. When I first met Tina, she was pale, underweight, and couldn't even stand on her own. Jessica Moore was addicted to playing mahjong and only fed her plain porridge, locking her in a small room when she went out. James Harper was busy with work and barely paid attention. I was the one who enrolled Tina in daycare, made nutritious meals for her daily, and raised her into a healthy, bright girl. I gave up my rest days to tutor her and eventually got her into a top high school. But all she remembered was her biological mother. I laughed bitterly. The three of you are sitting down to eat, waiting for me to send the child, but neither the biological father nor the mother can be bothered to pick her up? Jessica Moore's face turned red with embarrassment. James Harper hesitated, then turned to use the phone booth to make a call. I calmly asked the teacher on duty to send Tina Harper back. James glared at me and warned, "Don't do that again. Since I've submitted a marriage application with you, you're Tina's mother and you need to take responsibility." Tina was brought back shortly afterward. She raised her tiny fist and shouted, "Bad woman," before running into James's arms crying, "Dad, she's a bad aunt. She burned me." She opened her palm to reveal a scar and looked at me triumphantly. She was lying. I felt a wave of cold dread sweep over Meso. That's how she did it in my previous life. All those mysterious bruises I had never seen, she claimed I gave her. She was only a child but already knew how to frame me. James lost control and slammed me against the wall. People say stepmothers can't be trusted, and you proved them right. You burned Tina before you even officially entered this house. What else are you capable of? I'm truly disappointed in you. The date to collect our marriage certificate was postponed by a week, but I already had no intention of marrying him. The next day, I took my documents to meet with the leader. I had been the best calculator in the mold factory, and that job should have been mine. You should think this through, the leader said seriously. You've been gone for 5 years, and now you're separating just after marrying James Harper? I shook my head. I never married him. I'm withdrawing the application. He's been planning to remarry his ex-wife. The leader wasn't surprised. He nodded slowly. I know their situation. They've always had a strong bond. Lately, James' visits are often after work. It's understandable. No wonder James always used the excuse of missions. Everyone knew about his obsession with Jessica, except me. After getting the marriage application form, I tore it to pieces. My transfer to the Northwest had been approved, and I only had 1 day to prepare. My first stop was the small restaurant outside the mold factory. I had booked 4 tables there for what was supposed to be our wedding in 3 days. I went to cancel, but before I could speak, I heard James Harper's hearty laughter coming from a private room. I followed the sound and saw Jessica Moore, dressed in a bright red wedding gown, standing arm in arm with James. The room was decorated with red wedding banners and glowing candles. James's friends cheered and egged them on to kiss. When they saw me, the atmosphere turned cold. Their eyes darkened like I had just ruined their celebration. Then I noticed the wedding dress Jessica wore. It was mine. Bad aunt. Tina, dressed like a little flower girl, yelled, "Don't ruin my parents' wedding." I ignored her and stared at James. Why didn't you tell me you changed the name on the marriage application? James looked awkward and shielded Jessica. She's about to go help build the Northwest and wanted a symbolic wedding before leaving. I volunteered. You have no right to complain. His friends chimed in. Jessica Moore is a hero contributing to the country. What's wrong with having a wedding, even without a certificate? She was the first wife. Who's the second now? In my previous life, I was the one preparing for that wedding. Jessica claimed she was going to the Northwest. I didn't think much about it. 1.5 years later, she returned, and only then did I realize they had gone together to secretly work on large computer systems. She never had the qualifications to be selected. I'd had enough of playing along. Take off that dress. You can tie your life together however you want, but that dress was made by my hands, with my heart. Don't wear it if you think I'm dirty. Jessica's eyes welled up. Comrade Emma Carter, you're humiliating me and insulting our national contributors. She clutched the hem like I had torn it off her body. I didn't waste more words. I picked up a pair of scissors. This dress is mine. I'd rather cut it than let you wear it. Jessica screamed in panic. You have no right to touch me. I am heading to the Northwest. James stepped in and glared at me. How many times do I have to say it? Your name is still on the marriage application. Jessica and I aren't legally together. You're still my wife. Satisfied? He thought I still cared about my title as the chief's wife. I smiled sarcastically. I hope you two have a passionate marriage. Maybe triplets, for good luck. James's face twisted. Don't say nonsense. He lunged forward to grab the scissors. Bad woman, don't hurt my mom. Tina suddenly charged toward me with a basin of boiling water. I couldn't dodge in time, and my hands were burned. James used the distraction to snatch away the scissors. Then Jessica, seeing I was vulnerable, shoved me hard. My hand landed on a floorboard covered with sharp nails. One pierced through my palm. If I had fallen just a little differently, it could have gone through my skull. Jessica's face showed disappointment that I wasn't dead. She pointed to the blood leaking from my hand and fainted dramatically. James turned red with rage and grabbed my hair. What did you do? Don't you know she faints at the sight of blood? The pain from my scalp being yanked was blinding. I instinctively covered my head and shrank away, but to James, that was an act of defiance. You still won't admit what you did? Emma Carter, you attacked a hero of national aid and showed no remorse. Lock her up in the pigsty. 3 days in solitary confinement. No. I panicked and clutched the edge of James's wedding outfit. I'm leaving for the Northwest with the team tomorrow. If I'm late, it will be counted as desertion, and I'll never be allowed to participate in national reconstruction again. I don't want the wedding dress, and I don't want you either. I cried until my voice was hoarse. Let me go. No matter how much I begged, James Harper remained unmoved. Shameless. You didn't even want to sleep in the pigsty. And now you dare to hurt a hero of the Reconstruction? That's terrifying. If it were me, I'd have sent you to jail already. The Reconstruction in the Northwest is delayed because of you, and you can't even afford to make up for it. His friends all jumped to defend Jessica Moore, trying to force me to atone with my life. I endured the pain and tried to explain. You're all mistaken. I'm the one who was actually chosen to join the Reconstruction effort in the Northwest. You should verify the facts before accusing someone. James Harper suddenly cut in, his eyes filled with disappointment. We've submitted our marriage application. Your priority should be registering our marriage and taking care of the family. Why would the Reconstruction Institute let someone like you go to the Northwest? You've always been jealous of Jessica, trying to outdo her. But did you ever stop to think? No one respects a woman who lies and schemes all the time. Then he scooped Jessica Moore up into his arms, holding her like some fragile treasure. I don't have time to listen to your nonsense. Jessica's health is the priority. Without another glance, he left, and his subordinates dragged me into a car. I couldn't resist, I was too weak. They locked me inside a pigsty that leaked from every corner. To prevent me from escaping, they chained my wrists with iron. I curled up against the wall, shivering. It was the coldest time of the year, and before long, I lost consciousness. This was how the village punished kidnappers 3 days in the pigsty before turning them over to the police. No one had ever survived those 3 days. Just as I was about to die, a village labor representative appeared, bringing me a few blankets and covering me gently. Girl, it's too cold. You'll freeze to death like this. The unexpected warmth brought tears to my eyes. Sister, can you help me contact Comrade Gordon from the Aid Institute? Of course. Don't worry, she said as she tucked hot water bottles into my arms. That night, the temperature dropped drastically. 2 flashlights approached from a distance. I forced myself to sit up, only to see that it was Jessica Moore. She carried a plate of cold, spoiled food and 2 dry buns, shoving them toward me, but I refused. She screamed and deliberately knocked the food to the ground. I was kind enough to bring you something, and this is how you treat me? She sobbed, feigning grievance. James Harper walked in at that moment, saw the food scattered, and decided it was my fault. You're still unrepentant? Fine. I'll have you sent to labor reform immediately. Please don't be like this, Jessica chimed in sweetly, picking up the rotten leaves and holding them to my mouth. When I refused, she threw them in my face, laughing as she did it. James Harper only frowned faintly, letting her act as she pleased because she had his favor. Growing bolder, Jessica sneered. This is a pigsty. Do you want to try the manure too? I shook my head in fear, but she yanked the chain and kicked me straight into the filth. The more I hurt, the happier she looked. Just then, a voice rang out, catching her attention. Are the comrades selected for Northwest Reconstruction here? It's me. Jessica Moore responded confidently, releasing the chain and stepping forward. You, Comrade Gordon from the Aid Institute, looked puzzled. But when he saw me collapsed in the pigsty, barely alive, his face went pale. How dare you mistreat a Reconstruction comrade? Jessica raised her chin with pride, pretending to cry. I didn't care about all the awful things she did to me. I even brought her food, but she repaid me by tossing it on the ground. She extended her smooth, unblemished hand. If I injure my hand, how can I go to the Northwest?
I'm terrified.
Any sympathy James Harper had left for me vanished. Cradling Jessica protectively, he glared at me. Emma Carter may be my wife, but I won't defend her. I don't know why she's become so heartless. This punishment is light. If she still won't reflect, I've got plenty more methods. Jessica's status is different now. She can't be disrespected publicly. If Emma dares to act out again, she'll be confined for a full week. James turned to Comrade Gordon. I hope you understand. Gordon's face turned ashen. Cold sweat trickled down his temple as he shouted, You're insane. You're bullying an aide comrade right in front of me. Comrade Emma is the province's top computer specialist. You'll pay dearly if anything happens to her. Jessica Moore's smug smile froze. Who did you say? She asked weakly. Who else? Gordon snapped. Emma Carter. He rushed to the pigsty, lifted me up, and cried as he wiped the filth from my face. Jessica's behavior had not only insulted me, but shamed the entire Aid Construction Institute.
Impossible.
Jessica stammered. I submitted the application. Why would the quota go to her? Are you two colluding against me? What does the quota have to do with you? Gordon thundered, jabbing a finger at her nose. You skipped work to play mahjong. You always finish last in technical evaluations. With your qualifications, you'd never be chosen. You're nothing but a toad dreaming of marrying into the elite. Look in the mirror before you embarrass yourself. James Harper's face darkened. Explain the selection process clearly. Jessica trembled, unable to say a word. It was just a misunderstanding. I didn't think it would turn out like this, she whimpered, grabbing James's wrist with tears in her eyes. We've been husband and wife, you know me. Don't you know my character? James was torn, clearly unwilling to confront her lies. Gordon shot her a cold look before turning and guiding me out of that hellish pigsty. After seeing the iron chain around my wrist, Comrade Gordon's expression darkened and he muttered under his breath, Who gave you permission to lock someone up? Gritting his teeth, he shouted, Unlock this immediately. What if someone had died who would have taken responsibility? The key, of course, was in James Harper's pocket. Comrade, are you serious? Gordon demanded, his voice laced with disbelief. Once the chains were removed, James looked confused and muttered, Emma Carter wants to marry me. Would she go to the Northwest? He truly believed that I would never leave him, that I would give up everything because of my so-called love for him. When I remained silent, he declared confidently, My wife submitted that application on impulse. She won't really go. As her husband, I can revoke her spot on her behalf. Don't push things too far. Comrade Gordon, who had been defending me, was furious, and just as the two were about to fight, I stepped forward and pulled out the crumpled fragments from my pocket. I don't want to get married. I pressed the torn pieces of the marriage application into James Harper's hand and said clearly, And I don't want you either. I want to dedicate the best years of my life to my beautiful country. James took the scraps and paled when he saw what was written. He slowly gathered the torn pages into his palm, trembling as he read each one over and over. "What kind of trick is this?" he asked, voice shaking. "You think I'll fall for something so simple?" "Believe it or not," I replied calmly, "the application's been withdrawn. I'm no longer your wife. How dare you do this without my permission?" His lips trembled, his voice weak with disbelief. "This is fakey, it must be. You wouldn't really want to leave me. I'll find proof." He frantically followed the beam of his flashlight, looking for some shred of evidence. A gust of wind blew the papers from his hand. Without hesitation, he chased them down, even diving into a muddy pond to retrieve what he could. Covered in mud, he pieced them back together, rereading every line, every stroke, 5 times over. It was real, his own signature was there. He finally believed me. "If you really cared that I was seeing Jessica more, you could have just told me. I would have stopped. You didn't have to cancel the application." I let out a hollow laugh. "That's exactly what you promised me before. In my past life, when Jessica Moore came back, he stayed out for days, without explanation. I searched frantically and found him asleep in her master bedroom, wearing matching pajamas with her. When I demanded a divorce, he swore that nothing had happened and promised to cut ties with her forever. And for a while, he did. Jessica threw a tantrum at the factory and even tried to take her own life, but he didn't flinch. I thought maybe it really had been a misunderstanding. But when layoffs came, he sided with Jessica. He was terrified she'd be laid off for her incompetence, so he framed me as unfaithful, which led to my tragic death. He and Tina Harper felt no guilt, watching me die without a shred of remorse. How could I trust a man who would abandon me so easily? Give him 1,000 chances, and he'd still choose Jessica Moore over me. "Emma, stop making trouble and come home with me," he begged, reaching for my hand. "Don't go to the Northwest. Let's live a peaceful life. I'll write a new application. We can pretend this never happened." For the first time, James Harper was humble. I might have been touched once, but now I just smiled. "There's no need. I don't love you anymore, so why pretend?" He broke down and lunged to grab my wrist. "I don't believe you have the courage to leave me. I'll take you to the leader right now to reapply for our marriage. Even if you don't trust me, I meant it when I said I wanted to marry you." His grip was strong, and I couldn't break free. He dragged me as I stumbled behind him. Jessica Moore, long ignored, stood to the side with a deathly pale face. She stared at me with eyes full of murderous rage. Unable to stop James, she suddenly clutched her head and screamed, "Hubby, my head hurts. Am I dying?" James froze and turned back. Sensing her chance, Jessica collapsed dramatically to the ground. Everyone could see she was faking it, but James never questioned her. He immediately let go of my hand and rushed to her side. Jessica has always been prone to fainting. The cold is too much for her body. Please understand, I can't just let her die. Scooping her into his arms, he added, "We'll talk about the application later," then ran off without waiting for my response. He would always pity the weak Jessica Moore shivering on the floor, yet never came to check on me, even after I spent an entire day locked in a freezing pigsty. If that was love, I didn't want it. "You were right not to marry him," Comrade Gordon sighed. "I'm heading to the village brigade now to borrow a donkey cart and take you to the hospital." He paused and pulled a pass from his pocket. A fresh red stamp was marked clearly under my name. "Comrade Emma Carter, welcome to the Northwest team," he said. "Congratulations on escaping your misery." Holding that warm, ink-stamped pass, I finally broke down in tears. I didn't want a marriage certificate, I just wanted this one pass. At the hospital, the doctors immediately admitted me to the ICU. So I wouldn't miss tomorrow's departure. I requested high-dose medication, even if I had to leave with injuries. While I was recovering, someone appeared at the ward door, Tina Harper. Before I could react, she knelt on the floor with a loud thud. "Aunt, no, Mom," she cried, pouting with tears in her eyes. "I called you Mom, so can you please stop hitting me? It hurts so much. I don't want my real mother anymore." People passing by in the corridor stopped to stare, whispering and pointing at me and Tina Harper. When I didn't respond, Tina bit her lip, pulled up her sleeve, and exposed a row of fresh bruises on her arm. "I'm sorry, Mom, Emma. It's all Tina Harper's fault," she whimpered in a trembling baby voice, blinking through her tears. She looked so pitiful. She actually hit a child. What kind of person does that? Someone muttered. No wonder the girl wants to be with her real mother. But her stepmother? Clearly not fit for the role. Poor child, Tina Harper. I heard this woman's headed to the reconstruction team. Bet she stole Jessica Moore's spot, and now she's playing innocent. Chief, he must have been blind to marry a woman like her. Ruined 3 generations. The corridor filled with murmurs, all condemning me. Tina's goal was achieved. She smiled with satisfaction, just like she did in my previous life when she destroyed me. At only 5 years old, she could lie, fake injuries, and frame me without blinking. The daughter I had raised and cared for over 10 years had always been a little traitor. You want to be with your real mother? I asked coldly. Then go live with her in prison. Jessica Moore, who had been hiding and watching gleefully, froze on the spot. I knew she was nearby. She had sent Tina here, battered and bruised, just to elicit pity and make me look like a heartless stepmother. After all, who would believe a biological mother beat her own child? Tina looked confused at her age. She didn't even understand what prison was. Besides, I said, I haven't seen you all day. How exactly did I hurt you? Tina's face flushed. She couldn't answer, eyes darting away guiltily. Is it a new injury? Let's call an officer and get it examined and bother denying it. Emma Carter, don't go too far. Jessica Moore jumped out to defend her daughter. I'm the child's real mother. Why would I lay a hand on her? You're the one making baseless accusations. I didn't bother arguing. Instead, I pointed behind her. Worry about yourself first. A group of officers in uniform surrounded Jessica and snapped handcuffs on her wrists. Jessica Moore, you are under investigation for embezzling 30,000 yuan from the mold factory and impersonating comrade Emma Carter, resulting in defamation and harm to her person. You'll be taken into custody immediately.
No.
This is all a misunderstanding. Jessica stammered, her face pale. Someone framed me. I had no choice. In my previous life, when Jessica was caught stealing public funds to gamble on mahjong, it was James Harper who bailed her out with our family savings. He pulled strings to get her off the hook. But this time, I wondered how she'd escape. James returned just as the officers were leading her away. When he realized what had happened, his face fell in disbelief. He slapped Jessica hard across the face. You've been lying to me this whole time. His eyes turned red with rage. I trusted you. It's her, Jessica shouted, pointing at me. She's framing me.
I'm innocent.
Chief, please, you have to believe me. I have proof. One of the officers responded calmly. We have solid evidence proving you embezzled factory funds. No one else is involved. You acted alone. They pulled a black hood over Jessica's head and led her away. Tina, who had still been kneeling on the floor, looked utterly lost. She had followed Jessica's instructions, trying to push me away, never once imagining the consequences. I'm sorry, I didn't know what kind of person she was, James Harper said, pushing forward with a look of guilt. Punish me however you want. I swear I'll make it up to you. Tina and we need you. Emma, please come back. His voice was soft, his eyes full of emotion. Once, those eyes had touched me. Now, they did nothing. I had long been broken. The big betrayer and the little one? I had no interest in staying for either. You should wait for Jessica Moore to get out, I said coldly. You two are a perfect match. With that, I turned and left. I had a train to catch to the northwest. The next morning, I left with the team at sunrise. James Harper tried to stop me, but he was too late. When we arrived in the northwest, although the conditions were harsh, I felt a sense of peace I had never known before. Working with like-minded comrades reminded me of the greater meaning of life. Compared to spending my days orbiting around James Harper, the vast land and purpose-filled days made me realize how small that world had been. That man sent something, again, should I return it? Over the 5 years I spent there, James came every year to see me. If I refused to meet him, he left food and supplies instead. He was worried I couldn't adapt to the environment. I returned everything. I no longer wanted any connection with him. After 5 years, thanks to my excellent performance, I was transferred to a major city to tackle the challenges of developing large-scale computers. The knowledge I carried from my past life gave me insights that caught the attention of leadership and greatly sped up R&D. Before I left, the Institute granted me a month's leave to return home and rest. 5 years had passed. My hometown had changed beyond recognition. The old dirt road at the village entrance had been paved. I took a new bus back. As soon as I got off, I saw a group of kids surrounding a smaller figure, shouting and pushing. She stinks. No mom to raise her. Beat her up. I couldn't stand by. I picked up a stone and hurled it to scare them off. When I stepped closer, I realized the one being bullied was Tina Harper. Her hair had been cut short. She was thin, ragged, and smelled terrible. Her arms were covered in scratches. "Leave her alone," one villager whispered, pulling at my sleeve. "You know James Harper's daughter? Skipped school all the time. Got kicked out. Her dad couldn't handle her anymore and dumped her in a full-time daycare center. She even hits people. Now no school will take her. Everyone avoids her. Her dad's yelling doesn't work." As I looked down at her, it was hard to reconcile this girl with the Tina I had once raised. I had worried about her grades, her health, her happiness. I had pushed her into top schools and done everything to support her dreams, and now she was a shell of that child, cast away by the very people she once chose. In the eyes of her teachers and classmates, she had always been a model student, polite, well-mannered, and academically excellent. But now, she was unrecognizable, spewing profanity with no trace of the girl I once knew. "Mom," Tina Harper cried out, her eyes brimming with tears. "Mom, you're finally back." She crawled forward and clung to my legs. "I was wrong, I was really wrong. I regret everything. Please come back and take care of me. You're my mother. I only recognize you as my mother. I want to learn piano again. I want to get into a top high school. I want to wear beautiful dresses." Did she really remember those things? My heart trembled, but I stayed silent. "You have your own biological parents," I said calmly. "Ask them for what you want. I'm not your mother." Oh, but she could still wait for Jessica Moore to come back. The villagers scoffed at the idea. "She was sentenced to 3 years, one of them said. Then she got into fights in prison, and more crimes came to light. They added 2 more years. 5 years total. Honestly, Jessica Moore may never get out." Another villager added coldly, "She gave up such a good stepmother to go crawling back to a biological mother who's a mess. No wonder her life turned out this way. She got what she deserved." Someone else muttered to Tina, "Your Aunt Emma is a national treasure now, a key figure in the country's future. And you? You had it all and threw it away." Tina looked at me with sorrowful, pleading eyes, but I felt nothing. If she were truly my daughter, she never would have ended up like this. Regret came too late. The village hosted a welcome party for me, and that was where I saw James Harper again. He had aged, his face more drawn, his hair touched with gray. When he saw me, his expression softened into a familiar smile. "Do you have a partner?" he asked hesitantly.
No, Ian Suara.
His eyes lit up with sudden hope. "Then does that mean you're staying this time? If you're still single, what do you think about giving us another chance? I've saved a lot of money over the years. I'll buy you whatever you want. I've had time to think. I don't want to marry anyone else but you." He took a step closer. "If you're willing, we can go register the marriage tomorrow. I know you've become someone incredible, but the fact that you're willing to return home, it must mean you still care about me, right?" He really believed I had come back for him. "Do you know anything about computers?" I asked. James blinked, caught off guard. "I know a little, but not much. Abroad, they're already working on supercomputers and microcomputers. Our country is still behind," I told him. "I can't let us fall further. That's why I'm only back for a month. After that, I'll be taking on a position where I'm truly needed, helping develop national infrastructure through technology." I looked him in the eyes. As for UV, never been part of my plans. The spark in James Harper's eyes faded completely. But I was no longer the woman who orbited around his life. I was ready to step into a broader world and compose a new, more powerful music of my own.